I have to do
Right.
250 for Odyssey. Don't rape the guy in the mailroom. Home human resources stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting that I'm doing this, and that there was a call with David Field yesterday at town hall, whatever. Does he work here anymore? And also what at this late stage, this overwrought 2 hours. This one particular class is that I took last year. So do you think that I unlearned not to feel up the secretary in a year? Because I'm taking it now again.
Yeah.
It is so...
You need a refresher.
It's so interesting. Everybody involved in this HR thing, it must have cost millions and millions of dollars, these hours worth of classes.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes after everything, possible jokes you could say. It goes after... It's
but
all
I'm sure it's to, cover themselves with lawsuits and stuff.
Oh, no, I think it's ESG stuff. I think that he's
just
into that.
But also, if somebody sues for sexual harassment or whatever, your attorneys can say well, we did train all our employees not to do that. So, if you buy a certified one from
that's a half day visit or something, or an hour visit. This is hours of ridiculous minutia that I'm doing, and it's all it's all these hypotheticals in the office where first of all, everybody is a different nationality involved because there's a lot of films that you're watching. So they've acted these out. And now everybody's also got these names that just simply don't exist in the world.
Right.
Ayada said to Nene, can I have... and what are you... But this is what happens when you let HR, when human resources has a seat at the table. Everything becomes human resources. It would be the same thing if you brought in legal to have a seat at the table. They'd have a hand in everything.
Oh yeah, no, they're never happy with anything. The second legal or HR or whoever gets involved in anything, they're a huge pain. That's just how it is. I mean, And it reminds me honestly of the debate last night, because about halfway through the debate, I turned to you and I was like, "This is like the HR ladies, these moderators."
Oh yeah, no, totally.
That was totally the vibe, and you said this is not good for women that they're acting like this. And there's been a lot of headlines today that are
we're gonna start right there with that, but I just want to finish this for a second.
Okay.
But the moderators, we're gonna start with. But so one of the hypotheticals is you're on an email thread and one person signs an email with her pronouns. And then you say, "Oh my goodness!" You forward it to your people in the office, saying, "Oh my goodness! I guess we're doing that now." And then they have fake pronouns like cat, dog, whatever. And then somebody else will top that and with their own pronouns, making fun of it. And then somebody else, the last person, like Enoch or whatever, the last person with a name that nobody has, writes Martian. Jupiter, whatever, Klingon for his pronouns.
Right.
But Enoch, who's every race as well, by the way, Enoch has CC'd the original sender of the email.
Oh, oops.
Right, who meant it. So it goes through all of the scenarios where feelings can be hurt. Hours worth of scenarios. And one that I showed forward to you is this woman named Lexi, who is a lesbian, and who one of her friends is calling her a lesbian name that lesbians call each other.
Right.
And
a nickname.
Nickname. So, but then a nickname catches on, and now Lexi is no longer comfortable with it. So this is the danger, the slippery slope that are nicknames, because you want it to be contained, and now the entire department is calling her his nickname. So I was trying to think, what could that be? What could Lexi's nickname be?
That's related to her being a lesbian and isn't offensive enough that she's okay with her friend in the office calling her it, but when other people start calling her that lesbian related nickname, she's uncomfortable.
Right. So we know the one that we know the one that's an earthen barrier that holds a reservoir in. So
right.
That's the big one, and that's not like a real term of endearment. So it wouldn't
be
that.
You wouldn't have your friend call you that as a nickname, certainly.
Right. So I'm thinking, then what would be it? What do lesbians call each other as a friendly-ish kind of thing? Would Lexi be lesby? Is it that lame?
I mean, that seems really stupid. I don't think you would use that as a nickname either.
No, I agree. That would make absolutely no sense. So, but I've wanted to find out, get to the bottom of this. So, hold on. Hold on. I just had the page open.
Okay.
Okay. This is my first time to this site, I assure you.
Mm-hmm.
17 lesbian slang terms that every baby gay needs to learn. Now, I assume that's a new out gay, a baby gay?
Yeah, if you're a new gay. I unintentionally on Twitter learned some new gay terms.
You did?
Mm-hmm. Like tenderqueer.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay, so here's one. Do you know what a gold star is? Maybe that's what you called her. You do? How do you know?
I know stuff.
Alice, this is totally to do with Tufts, isn't it?
No, it
is
is
this your
not.
days in Tufts?
No.
How long were you
not.
gold star in Tufts, Alice?
Gold star means you've never slept with a man. That's a gold star lesbian.
Yeah. Okay, Alice. Something's up with
No,
why you
it's
know
not.
that.
I just know things.
So I've never heard these terms, and you're right out of the bag. You're 1 out of 1.
Okay.
Oh, I just know. Yeah, there's no particular reason.
Okay.
Okay. You ready for the next one?
Okay, I'm ready.
I don't know if I know how to get to the next one. Lesbian. Some people find this term offensive because it carries a hierarchy that automatically devalues bisexual.
Oh, and it's also transphobic.
It is?
Yeah.
You know what a U-Haul is?
No.
It's a verb. It's when a queer women become emotionally invested in a relationship very quickly. They U-Haul.
Oh, because like
in.
women move in right away
Exactly.
because they're easily emotionally. But can you not move my camera, please? Thank you. Okay, that makes sense.
So lesbian.
So lesbian?
Yep.
I don't know what that means.
A famous lesbian. Like Ellen DeGeneres would be a lesbian.
Oh, like Cel.
Exactly.
C-E-L. I getcha.
Oh, wow, that's what I like. Pillow princess.
I don't know what that means.
It means someone who enjoys the receiving role in sex but doesn't like to give. How does that work with lesbians? You figure it would be contractual. But wait. You know what a pillow princess is? Everybody. Who likes the giving part? Like, who literally likes the giving part? Lipstick lesbian, we know.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that was you in college.
No.
Soft butch. Now, she might have been calling her lipstick Lexi.
Or I could see pillow princess.
Calling her that?
Yeah. If you're friends with somebody.
Okay. Soft butch.
Means you're like butch, but not a lot? I don't know.
Yeah, someone who presents mostly masculine but has some feminine traits. See also tomboy or chapstick lesbian. Okay. She could call her chapstick if she looks like that. High femme.
Means you're very feminine.
Once again, you in college, correct.
No.
A queer woman who presents extremely feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Stone butch.
I don't know what that means.
Someone who presents extremely masculine.
So
stone
not
butch.
Soft.
If you were in college a lesbian, what would your taste be? Like lipstick lesbian?
Taste? Like people? I don't.
Would you like a?
Well, I like men, so I assume somebody butch because I like masculine people who are men because I'm not a lesbian.
So you want a stone butch, someone who presents extremely masculine.
I guess so.
That's who you were dating in college. Chapstick lesbian who presents somewhere between masculine and feminine, often dressing in comfortable or sensible clothing. See also soft butch. Don't worry, this is almost over. Oh, cishet, abbreviation for someone who's both cisgender and heterosexual. Oh, God, I hope she didn't call her that. I'm going to go past that. Daikon, a famous woman, not necessarily gay, who's popular among queer women and seen as a gay icon. That's good. Daikon's a good word.
Gotcha. Yep.
Bed death.
I don't know. Not when you don't sleep together anymore?
The stereotypical idea that relationships between two women will eventually lead to a sexless life. Stud, a queer woman, usually a woman of color, who's dominant during sex.
Oh.
All right. This I like. 100-footer.
Okay.
You know what that is?
No.
Used to describe someone who appears so stereotypically queer that you can spot them from 100 feet away.
Okay.
Let's say you were a governor of a state like, say, Minnesota, and you were kicking your legs around and like you had a debate and you were up in the audience. You could see that person and say, oh, I see. Clitorference. This is a noun.
I don't know what that is.
What do you think it is? Clitorference. What do you think that is?
Oh, it's like cock blocking, but...
That's correct. When someone gets in the way of you flirting, making out, or having sex with a girl you're interested in, and they actually use that term that you used, which is vulgar.
Which word? Oh.
Yeah. Doppelbanger. Oh, this is interesting. I wonder if this really does exist.
Mm-hmm.
Hello? Doppelbanger.
Two women who are together who look like each other?
Someone who is attracted to people who look like just them. And this is the that was the last one. So there you go. I wanted to bring an element of education to the show.
That was education.
Now, about the moderators from last night. The problem...
So wait, can I add one new queer word that I learned this week, which is that tenderqueer, because somebody who's trans went to I think it's like a San Francisco street festival where people have a bunch of sex in the street and stuff, and didn't like it. They were uncomfortable with all the like naked men around and stuff, and it was uncomfortable for them, and so people on Twitter were calling them a tenderqueer.
I see.
Because it's like, so apparently this is a word for like these like sensitive internet gay people who like aren't part of the hardcore scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who are like, I'm uncomfortable with the naked bodies everywhere. You know?
See. That would probably be Tim Walz.
No, this is more like for younger people who are like, oh, I'm demisexual pan.
Okay.
And then they like go to gay things that are like, I mean, this Sex in the Street festival has been like a thing in the gay community apparently for decades. I had no idea that it exists. It's called like Folsom or something. It's like a BDSM street festival. And like, so this has been a part of the gay community for a really long time. And then these like young people who've just like co-opted queer identity show up at it and they're like, man, I'm uncomfortable. Okay. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why it's called a tenderqueer.
What's it called if you take young dancers to China on long trips? What is that called? Alice?
Mind your own damn business.
Okay, so hold on one second. I have to yell down with the kids. Okay, so here's my take on the moderators last night, and maybe I should just play a cut to set this up.
They also call some of these people Puritans.
Oh, really?
That's like people who try to like join the gay community, but who are like uncomfortable with sex. So
when you were in college, kind of testing the waters.
I was not, but that's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it one particular steady person, or was it just dabble here at a party there, this and that?
No, it was not.
Never for shock value?
No.
Okay.
So anyway, we were going to talk about the debate moderators. That's what I was talking about before you got into your thing.
You were running around with tenderqueers and this and that. I was getting back to the debate.
I was finishing.
Here's the moderators in action.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status. Right. Temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
That was perfect. That was perfect. And it showed them, and yeah, she was trying to fact check, and she was absolutely...
Well, and a bunch of people on Twitter, a bunch of women specifically on Twitter, were saying stuff like, oh my gosh, I felt that, that thank you for explaining the legal process in my bones, and like saying that he was mansplaining and talking over that. Do you know Bess Kalb?
No.
Who we hate. She's the one, she was a writer for Jimmy Kimmel, but she really became famous because she became a Trump reply guy for years when he was elected, and she would reply like, oh honey, to every Trump tweet. Do you remember her?
No.
But anyway, so she became kind of famous from that. She's a quote comedy writer or whatever, but now she has like books out and stuff because she like made a career off of being a Twitter reply guy to Trump. She was all like, I'm an undecided voter. Who shall I pick? The man who keeps talking over women or the nice man who wants to give me free health care? Like,
right, okay.
Things like that. They're all trying to depict this as JD Vance like talking over them, and not this weird school marm HR people correcting JD Vance. They also continuously asked Tim Walz if he wanted to respond to stuff that JD Vance was saying, and did not do that for JD Vance.
Right.
It was very like blatant and over the top. I mean, JD Vance still had an amazing night, but it's funny now because there's all these headlines out there like this: Republicans continue to complain about moderators even though people think JD Vance won the debate. Yeah, he was way, way better than Tim Walz, obviously. It doesn't mean that the moderators came off well. Like you said last night, this is not good for women that they're acting like this, because it's like the worst stereotype of the Karen HR lady, bossy, nagging. Like it just was so toxic feeling. And we are... Like, no, just for clarity, would you like to respond to what he said about you, sir? Like, it was just so... I found it so annoying.
Oh, yeah. Just for the record, the Haitian immigrants do have legal status, sir. And the way...
We've cut your mic.
Yeah. The way it's said, it's done. And this one, I think, is the core is... And Ann Coulter tweeted out, is that, like, if I get Susanna Brennan from Twitter, if I call these two the C word... Here's my feeling that really is stylistically the problem, and I run into this every Sunday when Margaret Brennan is on and when Kristen Welker is on. That's it, right? Kristen Welker? Yeah. And many other female news anchors or panelists, is that these two, for instance, O'Donnell's a little bit better, but Margaret Brennan here, they come off as people who are feeling massively inadequate to male moderators. Feeling totally inadequate. And the same thing when they're anchoring. That's what it sounds like to me. It's this weird overcompensation where they feel
like
that they have
I'm assertive.
Yes. And no, you're not gonna talk over me. Sir. The way Kristen Welker nitpicks and begs and says, but will you ask for a ceasefire from it? But sir, will you? You're not gonna push me around. It comes off so weak and desperate, and it just sounds like someone who feels inadequate and somebody who's hugely insecure. And it's men. It's because these women are trying to stimulate, copy men.
Simulate?
Not simulate, but emulate.
Okay.
They're trying to emulate men and the way men present themselves, like alpha men, like Chris Wallace can, Chris Matthews can, like during debates.
Marks points out they also, after J.D. Vance would complete an answer and stop, they'd say like, Mr. Vance, your time is up, as though he was trying to go over or something when he wasn't.
Totally. That's a great catch. So, and my feeling is that that's what this is. And it has to do with the culture of the way women are brought up to think that the way I'm supposed to act like powerful is to act like men act or powerful. And it's so weak because you don't have to. I mean, women with a brain don't have to.
No, so, Oprah doesn't act like that.
Oprah doesn't have to.
Ellen DeGeneres doesn't act like that.
And Coulter doesn't act like that.
Right.
She feels perfectly adequate. She feels like she is capable. Laura Ingraham doesn't
Megyn
act
Kelly
like that.
doesn't act like that.
I actually think Megyn Kelly does a little bit.
You think so?
I do. I think she tries too hard to be one of the boys with her very hard manner. I love her and I love her show, but I do get it from her.
Like that she feels the need to act tough.
A little bit of is a little too hardo. And yeah, I don't quite buy it sometimes. And she'll throw swears in, and some it's you can tell people who have practiced swearing, and that sounds real. but in even Amy Walter of the Cook Report on the left can do, and there's some others who Eliana Johnson, another good one, the Free Beacon, who does not women. I feel like are sometimes they feel like if they use their natural tools of communication, which are feminine,
right,
a soothing way of delivering, putting emotion in delivery, just being women is very powerful. Women, you're given these tools to use, and don't feel like that if you're defaulting to using these tools, that you're selling out feminism because you got to use the guy tools. And I think women do that too much. And to me, it's just totally inadequate. And it's
Pepper has managed to.
What has she done?
Undo.
Oh, it's just a it's just a bad look. And that's what we heard there. And that. And, by the way, in Vance, them cutting off his mic. Oh, how weak does that look?
Well, technically, they did cut off both their mics.
Okay, that's fine. But
Gentlemen, no one can hear you.
You had to use the nuclear option. Like it was that bad because the guys were getting into. And Vance was making a good point. It's like.
Yeah, and it's also like the way they moved along from stuff and this is what's interesting about this debate is in spite of the moderators, this was almost like a throwback debate. Like they talked about policy. Yes. This was very substantive. They talked about stuff they agreed on. It was very cordial. You know what I mean? Like you felt like it was two guys hashing it out, kind of. And like that's
if the other guy, wasn't absolutely petrified. I mean, this was a beatdown.
Yeah, no, it was, but they were talking about stuff, and that's when the debate was at its good moments, which was what was annoying about them continuing to just like, nope, we need to move on. We have a lot of things to get to, is because like they were actually debating it where one person would say something and another person would say like, no, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. Right. Here's another example. And like, let's discuss this. They were really like talking through some of these things, which was what was annoying about them being like, okay, good job, Tim Walz, you responded, now let's move on. And just dropping that thing where they go like, oh, by the way, those are legal immigrants. Now let's move on.
Well, that also shows you that they don't get showbiz. They don't understand. There's a Donnybrook happening. Let it happen.
Right.
These guys like go, no, but because we're good, studious girls who got good B pluses, we're going to stick to structure and organization. No way. You let them fight. If they're going to fight, they're going to duke it out. And they're talking substantively. This is not, them calling each other names. Mm-hmm. It's precisely what you do. But no, they want to be the debate winners. So they said that's our goal is to look strong. We're going to be the debate winners. We're going to act oddly stern, even though we never do anywhere else, except when we're trying to show that we're not just girls. It's like, it is so weak. Here's how Tim Walz.
No, it's once again the, like, girls run the world t-shirt that, like, no boy feels the need to wear a boys run the world t-shirt, even though boys demonstrably do run the world. But it's, like, weird overcompensating behavior.
Totally. Here's pretty much the Titanic sinking moment for Tim Walz.
But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined that service at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and
should
learn.
Law enforcement be listening to this, by the way?
Yeah, people have brought this up, actually, that he's, like, taking a lot of gifts in China and stuff, and, like...
He's taking a lot of kids to China,
problems.
too,
yeah.
by the way. He's really interested in young people. But this reminds me, actually, totally, and I said this today on my show, this reminds me of me when I choked doing the audition for Good Will Hunting, which was in front of a lot of people, where I knew my lines. I had like 3 sentences. I went in there. It was filmed. It was in front of hundreds of people, and my mind broke, and I said everything scrambled up. Everything scrambled. It was for the part that was
like when he said he's friends with school shooters too.
Well,
that was another one.
This is.
I played till the streetlights came on, and I'm proud of that service.
Yes, that's precisely was it. And like for me, it was the role that went to Casey Affleck in the back of the car on the way to a fight or after a fight. And they're like, "We're going to McDonald's," and I was supposed to say something like, "Yeah, we're not. I hate McDonald's. I'm not going to McDonald's." They're like, "Why don't you like McDonald's?" And my line was supposed to be. And this is the guy who was reading back to me because that girl works there as a bitch and I freaking hate her or something like that. It's his lines are still in the movie, I think. And it came out. Every word was randomly planted in my mind. Like we're not going to bitch because I have McDonald's. It was so bad that they let me do it again so they could feel like, oh wow, you almost nailed it. Let's try it again. But they felt like the whole place was taken down in morale. I didn't get that part. But yeah, the Walz answer, and I'll go right back to it here, is he's totally scrambled. And from a guy who's been practicing this, I mean, this is. I did not see
Well, you can see why they put out the story in advance of this. That
yeah.
He's a regular guy and not a polished debater like J.D. Vance. And that was like the thing they went with coming out of it. Like, well, J.D. Vance was obviously more polished. Like,
well, right. I thought they were setting us up by saying that. I thought Walz was going to come out here and just smother J.D. Vance with a blanket. I thought that he would have some tool that got him to where he...
Mark also says, notice how the question they gave him, they like framed it for him. They gave him a potential answer. You didn't go to China until later that year, which like gives him the excuse to say, the dates.
That's a great catch.
Like,
that's a great catch.
They handed him the question already set up.
Yeah, this is the year of doing that. They did that with Kamala too.
My community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on...
The fact that he said I'm a knucklehead at times means that his coaches, his handlers, the campaign, they feel like this Coach Walz thing is selling.
Yeah.
That it's working. Like Van Jones yesterday just called him Coach Walz. Coach Walz. Coach Walz.
So embarrassing.
It is. It's like it's not working. He's not really Coach Walz to the 11% of people in the middle who they want to believe that he's just that old coach. Sure, he's a knucklehead at times, but what coach isn't? Everybody likes a coach.
Veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say more than anything. Many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there,
gets caught up in lies, things he makes up about himself.
I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump.
So we're 144 into this. He is out of gas,
and he hasn't addressed the fact that he lied about when he was in China.
Exactly. But
by the way, didn't he and his wife also get married on the Tiananmen Square anniversary?
I think they did, yeah. Right. Yeah,
what kind of freaking weirdo does that?
Well, I mean,
Did you like get a discount on the venue or something?
The sentence gets problematic when you say, "Didn't he and his wife get married?" There's also the lie detector pen is going. But so now he has little pieces of an attack on Trump that they've practiced that he's trying to piece together, but he's got a minute left and 5 seconds of attack in him. His guy run out. They needed to cut the mics for him. They let him hang.
Right.
O'Donnell and Brennan, because they didn't want to interrupt him, to maybe give him breathing room. Will he recover? He'll recover, right? He'll recover. He's Coach Walz.
Should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Okay, there's the values answer from Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
He's 213 into it. He's hoping to God we move on now. This is when we move on. Okay, I gave you 2 minutes and 13 seconds full of words. In the name of God, move on. Now, I'm not going to say it's through expertise, but somehow these women decided we're getting an answer.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said.
20 seconds left.
So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protest, went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Still stuff left.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Vance.
Oh man. Yeah, it was rough. If you were hoping Coach Walz was going to go show weird, creepy Yale guy JD Vance, it didn't pan out for you. It was not good. And I think that it was not a few things. Like, it was not as bad as the Biden debate where it wasn't like 65-35 people said JD Vance won. But going in, a lot of the people that liked Walz thought Walz lost. It definitely defied expectations for JD Vance. Will it make that big a difference? It tends not to. One reason why I think it was really good for JD Vance was that he had extremely high negatives in poll ratings, and it helped him a lot. It also gave people a good impression of Coach Walz, which I don't understand at all, but all the polls seem to agree that most people thought it was kind of a tie and that they liked JD Vance better and they liked Tim Walz better after the debate, which, I don't see how you watch that and think that, but...
nobody thinks that...
But anyway, but the fact that JD Vance's numbers got a lot more positive is really good because the media narrative was that because they trashed him, they were saying he was dragging the ticket down, right? And they were causing some of that narrative to spin out of control, like that he was so terrible. And I think that he really did a lot to repair that image tonight. He was nice. He had a great handle on the issues. He kept tying it back to Kamala Harris and her time as vice president. He was so focused. He was so good. He was so likable. The looking at the camera stuff was funny and likable. I think people who were expecting to dislike him were thrown off.
Totally. Because
they had been told by the media that they were going to hate this smarmy, slick guy.
Right.
And he just wasn't dislikable. That was the problem.
Well, that was one of the problems. He wasn't dislikable.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke softly and with care and empathy to women and about women.
Mm-hmm.
His anecdote about abortion.
And about families. Almost to the point where, you went on the Daily Wire guys this morning and Matt Walsh was saying I wish you would debunk some of these narratives about school shootings or about whatever. But people don't want to hear that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He really had a job to do where he had to repair his image as this evil Republican. And I think how he handled the talk about the school shootings to say this is terrible and I'm empathetic about this. And instead of saying all the school shooting numbers are just made up and you guys are crazy for believing that your kids are in danger when you send them to school, which is true.
Well, right.
Your kid is not going to get shot at school.
Right.
But that was not what he needed to do tonight.
Well, right, and I also think that that thing on abortion I thought was great. Since saying the Republicans don't know how to talk about it, saying that you can be pro-life, but that real life puts people into real positions, situations, was a total. You never hear somebody do it. He just was totally comfortable. He was the most comfortable person in that room, more comfortable than the moderators.
Yeah. Dave in Florida brings up the overwhelming consensus among scientists is that the Earth is warming at an alarming rate.
Right.
That they did that too.
Oh yeah, it really should be considered a disgrace, and I kind of wish there was a third candidate who could torch them for making the North Carolina thing about climate change.
Oh yeah.
The North Carolina thing said more and more people are worried about climate change. Like, how freaking dare you just embed that into the North Carolina story as fact?
I still remember when there was Katrina and Marjorie Egan said on TKK that, she liked freedom as much as the next person, but they really should ban styrofoam because, you could see what happened. And, and I was like, what? Like, what? Those two things have nothing to do with each other. If you, in Brookline, get a styrofoam takeout container, it has no impact on Katrina.
Correct.
It doesn't do anything. It's just insanity. But yeah, I thought Tim Walz came off as totally not ready for primetime, which is not good because, Kamala also comes off as not ready for primetime. I thought it was also interesting that the other big media takeaway was that he came off as not ready because he hasn't been doing any media interviews. The media has really latched onto this narrative that that he and Kamala are hiding from the press, which they are. And, and they want a piece because at the end of the day, most of them want to be successful and land the big interview and get the vice presidential candidate on to talk to them. And they're not doing it. Their campaign team is just trying to run out the clock right now. And it's unclear. The polls still appear to be pretty much tied. There's really no post-Veep debate polling. Do I think it's going to move the needle that much? I don't know. It could make some people feel like it's safe to vote for Trump Vance, who maybe were scared off by some of the Vance rhetoric that he's some evil extremist or something. That maybe a few people who were scared will now feel okay about it, which I think is what really Vance had to do that job last night. Does it help? Maybe where it's so close, maybe it does help.
Yeah.
I do think that, it's hard to say what the effect will, even though people think Vance won, it's hard to say what the effect will be, if anything, later. But I will say this ratings wise had numbers as big as a presidential debate.
Right.
It was 67 million total people with peak viewers over 50 million. That was way bigger than usually you see for a Veep debate. So it could potentially matter. I don't know. The other thing I'll say is is this a pattern with Kamala now where this is her taste in men is just terrible?
Before you get there, I want to just wrap up the debate.
Okay.
I think that yes, it could make some JD Vance fans. Absolutely. I think that he probably did win a lot of fans over. The fact that the guy is so knowledgeable, so deep and knowledgeable, he can turn on a dime. He's what's that called? It's not hand-eye coordination. It's something about the eyes. They used to say that Wayne Gretzky had double vision or some kind of vision. What's it called when you can see behind you? You see the landscape better than other people. It literally is a sports thing. I don't know. You guys probably know, but that he has that. The guy is so gifted that he's exciting. It certainly sets him up for 2028 as the front runner alone. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you that actually. Do you think if Trump were to lose, do you think he is the front runner?
Yes.
I think he's the front runner if Trump wins. I think he could fade into obscurity possibly if not.
If Trump loses, well, he's still going to be in the Senate, and that's up
true.
in 2028. Yes, I do. I think he's the hot ticket now. I listening to the podcast.
Mick says hindsight.
No, it's not hindsight. It's
So 360 vision.
It has the word vision in it. It's sports. They used to say it about Wayne Gretzky. That's all I remember.
Peripheral vision.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's peripheral vision. Yeah, I think it is.
That's Mark in the chat. Yeah.
But yes. But I do think that it could, going by just by the podcast community, the commentary guys, where John Podhoretz has apologized to his audience several times for letting J.D. Vance write in the paper. in commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Today, they threw him on their shoulders and celebrated him for 35 minutes. The National Review podcast today, I'm sure they would have praised him. I know that Rich Lowry praised him because he was on the Megyn Kelly last night. He was thrilled, absolutely just thrilled, and I'm sure the rest of the guys would be too.
Yeah, like I said when we went into it last night, I knew I was going to feel good.
Even reluctantly, the Never Trumpers all praised Vance. They still said, like Steve Hayes said from the Dispatch, that he still gets disqualified forever for
not
January
admitting
6th.
that Trump lost in 2020.
Right, but I would say, to me, that's the best debate performance I've ever seen by anybody ever. I can't imagine. That's just the best. He nailed it on all the stylistics. He nailed it on all the substance.
He didn't let stuff get by him. He called out stuff.
He nailed it on tone. He nailed it on just about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say Tim Walz, that they haven't let him go out there, is that because they know that guy exists that we saw last night? Or is that because he can't go out there because she doesn't have policy issues, so all he can do is damage if he answers wrong because there's no wrong or right?
Right.
So now you can't go. So now Kamala can't talk to the press. Walz can't talk to the press. And Emhoff now can't talk to the press. So it's only Gwen Walz now who can talk to the press for the time being. But this Doug Emhoff story, go ahead.
So it came out that, and this is like really well corroborated, actually. A whole bunch of people have said it. Is the Daily Mail the first to report this?
Yes.
Is this where it came out of? A whole bunch of people corroborated that this woman, a high-powered lawyer, I guess, in New York or something, that was dating him at the time back in like 2008, 2012, like back a while ago. 2008 might have been when the divorce was, I think. So maybe 2012. Anyway, that he hit this woman at this event because he drunkenly felt that she was flirting with somebody else.
Right. And if you read about this woman, she sounds awesome. They were waiting for a cab, essentially, and they were...
she took him to this like high-powered event with all these rich and famous people there. Was it the Cannes Film Festival?
Yeah, Cannes Film Festival.
Okay, yeah.
And so they're waiting for a cab, but the line waiting for the cab is like 100 people deep. She goes to grease the valet and pay him off in euros to let her jump the line. She sounds awesome.
Yeah.
By the way. And he thinks that she's flirting, which maybe she did, but if it gets your cab, who cares?
You'd be fine with it.
Right. And Emhoff smacks her, of course. And there's also in the story, which is really damning, these eyewitnesses made sure to stick the screws to him. And in the story, they tacked on the idea that the woman, the nanny that Emhoff knocked up, blames him for her miscarriage.
Right. That he caused it.
Right.
Yeah. So he sounds like a stand-up great guy. That's awesome. And what's interesting to me is I didn't realize, too, how recently he and Kamala got together.
Yeah.
Because they only met in 2014. Or like 2013, 2014. So it was like we already had 2 kids by the time they met each other.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just interesting to me in the context of all this like blended family mamala stuff, right? It's like she's like been a part of this family for less time than we've been married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She like, and they have adult kids. So it's not like it's a weird, and I'm not trying to discredit her because like obviously they do have a blended family, and the fact that her stepkids like seem to think highly of her and stuff is a positive.
They also think highly of Hamas, of course, which is I mean, a bunch of whatever, fine.
Yeah, but I just was surprised by it because I didn't realize that it was like that recent, that they've only been together like 10 years. And it seemed like for people who are she's what, 60? Mm-hmm. Like the fact that she's only known this guy the last 10 years, like for really a short time of her adult life was interesting to me because it's I don't know, it jumped out at me somehow. Like it seemed, because when I was reading the story and I was like, wait, this all happened in like 2012? That's like 5 minutes ago.
She's had a rollicking aughts.
Yeah. But like what is wrong with her taste in men? Because he seems terrible. And like all these people fawning over him and being like, oh, it's a new model of masculinity. I said it on this show, I think maybe even in like 2020, 2021, like way back then. Do you remember some other friggin' Hollywood leftist got in trouble for being mean to women, and they said, like, scratch a male feminist, find a misogynist.
Right. Like, maybe might have been Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I forget who it was, but they're all like this.
Mm-hmm.
It never fails. Any guy who goes around and talks about being a wife guy or redefining masculinity and makes it a major part of his personality, well, I support women, like, something's off.
Yes,
There's something off. Every time. No guy has that as his personality to be deferential to women. It's like it's some weird pathological thing. If you're out there publicly being like, oh, women this, women that, I'm a wife guy.
How about this, Alice? How about this? Also, like, if you became president, I would be like, if anybody, one of you, calls me the first fucking gentleman, I am gonna fucking shoot you in the brain. First gentleman. Like, what a bitch thing to be called. It is, isn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah.
I'm the first gentleman.
Second gentleman.
Oh, God. Although Tim Walz will make a good first gentleman.
But he's not the first gentleman.
No, true. So true. Should we do the chat? There's a lot of messages.
Yeah, maybe because we cut people off last night.
Who's we?
You.
I had to. I had to make an executive decision. I believe you were. You. Agreed.
I was on board. I was
taken by surprise, though.
We've gotten a little far afield in the show.
Well, that's why I played Steve from Miramax first, because I thought, wait, will this beggar a Steve from Gloucester one? Because Steve from Gloucester's, I was just going to torpedo. What's it called when you kill a story? You sink it, you slam it, you slunk it. Come on, Mark will know. Spike it.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. But then Steve from Miramax was all full attack on Steve from Gloucester, so I had to play some of
part of Steve from Gloucester.
Not the part that law enforcement might be interested in. That's it. Okay, here we go.
I would love to walk away from the chat.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to do it, but I can't do so without getting the final word in. And this is directed to Alice. You said that you want the rhetoric to calm down and slow down or stop or whatever. And I agree with you. But Alice, I would consider the following.
Okay.
3 times over the last 2 weeks, and I know this wasn't intentional, but you did say that the chat was upset with me and they had some very nasty things to say about me. Do you understand that what you're doing there is you're inciting the mob?
Wow. That's stochastic terrorism by you.
I don't think that's inciting the mob.
He's right.
I very deliberately did not read all the things that people said in the chat because I don't like to be mean. And I did mention that the chat was saying that, but like, I don't know. That was true.
You essentially caused Jan 6th. That's what you did.
True.
Giving them the green light to come after me. You're giving them confidence to leave a voicemail.
Correct.
Maybe going forward, you don't mention that.
Yep.
If somebody's unhappy with me or Steve from Merrimack or Justin or whomever, just keep those comments to yourself. Because what you're doing is you're telling people that there's a fire and the fire needs to be put out while you're holding the gasoline can. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I can't tell you guys how to run your show. It's a good show. But if I were in your position right now, I would stop the chat for a week.
What?
Let everybody else calm down. Let everybody take a breather. And then maybe next week or the week after, you restart the chat again. But, man, you guys are just as guilty as what is going on.
No. She is guilty.
Just as guilty.
She is guilty.
As me and Steve from Merrimack and the others are. It's a group failure.
Group failure. Like, we don't have to play the messages at all, too.
What do you mean?
Or you could not leave them. I don't know.
I don't think there's anything going on.
We leave them. Tom plays them. People respond to them. Like, I don't know where, like, I come in.
Yes, I like that. That's right.
Hi, folks. I just wanted to chime in about the James poster issue.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I was his age, I was extraordinarily shy. I would not speak up or do anything like that either. I feel bad for him because I was kind of like that myself. And I wanted to let you both know that in the woke teaching community, they're now moving to certain new terms. with regard to DEI and DEI practice, because a lot of different types of parents are now winding up on school boards, and they're doing a lot more research, doing word searches. So they're going to be using a sense of belonging in the future, along with welcomed, invited, present, known, accepted, involved, heard, supported, befriended, needed, and loved. And these are what they're going to start to utilize. They mean the same thing.
Right. Sense of belonging for our kiddos, right?
Right.
But this is what they're going to start utilizing. And again, this is, things are changing, obviously, because they know they're being targeted, but we just got to get back to just a sense of normalcy. Just tell the kid why you don't like the poster, and don't make up something and then turn it back on him. And I mean, come on. I can't stand it. I just cannot stand it anymore. But best of luck to you, James. I hope you're successful in your election bid, your unopposed election bid, like a lot of Democrats in Massachusetts.
Let me tell you, Dr. Cheswick, he took 17 seconds out of his day today and made a new poster in which he tried to supposedly placate them. He had words like inequality in there and inclusion in there. And,
which he
inclusion.
Misspelled.
Yeah, you misspelled it. Inclusion.
Inclusive.
It was a shoddy piece of work that he gave today. They brought it, and I was surprised that he had the guts to do it. I thought that he felt that he was going to snow them over with the woke words. But I was thrilled with it. It looks miserable. It's it's terrible. It's the suckiest poster I've ever seen. I can't be prouder of him.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
About a quarter of the way through the debate, I started my own drinking game. And it was based on how many times Margaret Brennan said in that incredibly unctuous voice, we have a lot to get to. I mean, she must have said it 16 times.
By the way, Steve, notice that
including like at the end of the debate.
The a lot to get to didn't include like Ukraine.
Right.
Didn't include a lot of stuff.
It was obliterated by the first hour. She's so terrible. I never realized how awful she is. Yeah. I still kind of have a soft spot in my heart for Kelly O'Donnell because she's still pretty attractive. I mean, that's where it ends. But
so, Steve, I saw Kelly O'Donnell in person at the Scott Brown victory night, standing on a little milk crate, and she had a killer body and was absolutely as gorgeous as she could have been. She has lost something off the fastball, I think it's fair to say. Alice would say. I wouldn't. No. I don't judge women.
She's still cute.
Yeah. I liked her blazer last night.
Man, that's
little
it.
Buttons.
And not one question about the Ukraine. Not one question about the longshoremen strike. Yeah. Surely they could have found some way to ask Tim Walz about this, because the sitting president and I guess vice president are both, quote, union from your belt buckle to the soles of your shoes, unquote, as Joe Biden once said. Not one question about that. And maybe it's an extreme issue, but not one question about transgender surgeries for children, which Tim Walz is an extremist on, and Kamala Harris is a real extremist on as well. I thought that was just really odd. And the fact checking, I'm glad JD Vance said that. That was the best part of the best part of the debate. And they cut his mic. It was just so obvious. But man. On a positive note, I will say I was glad. I mean, I thought JD slaughtered him. Yep. But at least it wasn't like a shout fest. I don't know. That's just my thought. Anyway.
Agreed. I totally agree with your analysis on that, Steve. It was a beat down by JD.
Well, that was a debate.
It was.
When Walz said that his son witnessed the shooting, my initial reaction is, you're most likely lying.
I don't put it past him. As a matter of fact, Justin, I will agree with you that I bet you they fact check that and find it to be a lie.
Yeah, I wonder the same, but I thought JD Vance handled it exactly correct, saying, I am so sorry that happened to your son or whatever.
J.D. Vance is like thinking, and his computer brain is saying, this gives me an opportunity to have a human moment. Go.
Yeah. By the way, the chat wants you to know it wasn't Kelly O'Donnell. It was Nora O'Donnell.
Oh, was it Nora? Okay. Okay, yeah. Nora. Oh, she was a handsome woman. As was Nora Jones.
This guy is a terrible, terrible vice president pick. He's just an insurance policy.
He's terrible.
Just like Kamala was for Biden.
Yeah, who would want him to be president?
Biden was for Obama. It's a never-ending cycle.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Plus, he said he's friends with school shooters. That's total gaffe. He misspoke, but my God, that's a bad gaffe.
It's a bad misspeak. There's no doubt about that. He's still better than Kamala, I think. I do think like he actually is the governor of his state who does things, I think.
Yeah.
She's nothing. She doesn't have anything.
Hopefully the irony was not lost on anyone that you went from censoring and cutting off 2 chat messages to then berating John Kerry for wanting to get rid of the First Amendment.
That was Alice's choice, by the way. I wanted both messages to be played in full.
Mm-hmm.
She's a dictator on day one. Sorry about that. She just is.
I was told a million times all the troubles in my way.
Who says so?
Grow a little wiser, a little better every day. But if I cross a million rivers and I roll
Oh, is this a queen?
I still be where I started, bread and butter for a smile. I was told a million rivers in a jumping happy way. But I never saw
No, it's 2 different singers. Is this the Who?
now they say the folks are telling you.
No, it's not the Who. It's just like I don't know who that is. I don't know. Is that like Yes or something? I'm not sure. Alice certainly won't know. Certainly won't know. Okay, Alice, you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Fasten your seatbelts. We're going in.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack. I would just like it noted for the record that the guy who cut my message off yesterday, and it was a brilliant message, if I do say so myself, is the same guy, the new arbiter of taste on the chat is the same guy, Tom Shattuck, who has an active hit list of people he wants to kill. And he basically talks about people he wants to kill almost daily on the podcast.
No.
This guy, thankfully, is now editing what passes on the chat. What's actually...
That is inaccurate. I have a list of people I want to see die. And Corey Haim is checked off. That account has been settled. But, yes, I don't want to kill them myself. If they are killed, that is fine. But that is true. It reminds me of the time, remember we had a brand new baby and I didn't understand babies and I yelled at Sally?
Mm-hmm.
And what did I say? I was in bed and I was like very mad because she was going,
You said, you can effing die for all I care.
Right. Then I was much younger and we just had the brand new baby who was screaming in my ear. I didn't understand why somebody would do that. I felt that she was a terrorist at the time and it was terrifying. And Alice yelled at me about saying it. And what did I explain to you?
That is not a threat.
That was not a threat. That was not a threat.
Actually too extreme on the chat. I really appreciate that. But if you had listened to my message, which was brilliant, by the way, I just want to reiterate that. The last part of it, I actually said, and by the way, who wants to bet real money that Steve from Gloucester will be back on this podcast within a month?
I think you won that one.
Lo and behold, even I couldn't predict he was back on the podcast within less than 24 hours.
Yes. And
why? Because he is a needy little man. That's why. So, F you,
what?
SFG, good riddance.
What?
And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, no good riddance. Okay, nobody goes anywhere. Steve from Gloucester, stay here. Steve from Merrimack, stay here. Everybody just stay.
I mean, I'm all for taking a break if you feel like you need to take a break. This should be fun and happy, and like nobody should be upset. So, like, if it's not enjoyable to you, don't leave messages. That's like my thought. But I don't know. What do I know?
If
it makes you feel good, leave a message.
The girl who you were hooking up with in Tufts, did she have a nickname for you? Alice, come on.
I was not. None of this.
Share with people.
No.
I have heard by enough people who know both of us.
That's not true.
Alice.
It's not true. Don't spread rumors. It's not nice. BurnBarrelPodcast.com.
C'est la vie.